We also talk to the SABC News political reporter Samkele Maseko on the National Executive Committee meeting of the ANC, which is holding a special meeting today, and he joins us now via Skype. Samkele, it's great to have you on the program. I don't know if you heard the conversation there that I just had with the ANC spokesperson. He spoke about renewal in the party, and he said, of course, in his words, that it cannot do renewal alone. It will happen in conjunction with the people. What do you make, or some of your takeouts from the conversations that we just had before we get into the meeting that's happening?
Essentially, what the ANC will forever speak about is the renewal of its organization. It's not a new phenomenon that they've been speaking about. It's something that has been there since the 2017 Watershed Elective Conference of the African National Conference in Nasrec. And it's something that former president of the ANC, Thabo Mbeki, has been pushing over the past year or 2.5, as has been crisscrossing the length and breadth of all the provinces in the country and speaking to all ANC structures. And they've also got the ANC president on sharing the same sentiments. About a year or so ago, he did pin down a letter that the ANC stands as accused number one, and that the party will try cleanse itself of being seen as this corrupt organization that's only there to enrich themselves. For instance, we look at the contingency measures that he as state president has put in place to make sure that the funds of the disaster in KwaZulu-Natal of the KZN floods are not misappropriated and do not end up in the pockets of a few corrupt business individuals and politicians. So in essence, he is trying to clean up the African National Congress. But as former ANC Deputy President Kgalema Motlanthe always says, is that if the ANC were to be able to renew itself, it needs to give younger leaders an opportunity to lead. Other than that, if the ANC doesn't do that, it would be nothing but excuses.
Now, Sam, the ANC has been accused of saying one thing and doing another, particularly where the step-aside rule is concerned. Let's talk about that and what you make of some of the points that were, that we got from the conversation with Mr. Mabe. But also, let's speak about how long is this meeting expected to last?
The ANC Special National Executive Committee is not particularly about the step-aside resolution. Yes, those matters may arise, particularly around Zandile Kumete in the eThekwini region. It may arise on Mandla Msibi, who've got two witnesses who've now withdrawn their statements. It may arise on Danny Msiza in Limpopo, who is contending to be the provincial secretary of that particular province. And you've got a number of, just over this past week, Terrison Dutu, the Amatole regional secretary, his charges were withdrawn in the Eastern Cape, so he's been given the green light and he effectively will now have to go back to his functions as the regional secretary and may be able to contest the upcoming provincial conference, as he's seemingly going to go head-to-head against Lula Mangcukaitobi, the current provincial coordinator and former provincial secretary of the ANC in the Eastern Cape. But this National Executive Committee of the African National Congress, a special one, is more about the policy direction of the ANC in preparation for its policy conference in June. So this NEC is focusing squarely on policy proposals that will be tabled to ANC branches for deliberations as they go towards the policy conference / National General Council in June. For instance, one of the key factors that is coming out of the leaked Economic Transformation Subcommittee document, just to grab my phone here so that I don't get it wrong, just to quote, proposed interventions, increase exploration for oil and gas. South Africa needs to find its own source of crude oil through opening its offshore acreage to international oil companies for exploration for oil and gas. The growing opposition to oil and gas exploration by the anti-fossil fuel lobby groups needs to be confronted politically, because it is clear that South Africa is well endowed with oil and gas and will and could alleviate crises such as the one we have of high prices. Two, on biofuels, the biofuels program will need to be kickstarted through a support mechanism to reduce by at least 10% the use of crude oil for fuel requirements. This not only will create jobs in the sugar and sorghum industries, but will also improve the balance of payments. Third point is protection of refining capacity. The closure of refineries by some oil companies is increasing the strain in the system. The government, through CEF, is in discussions with BP and Shell to buy the Subpref refinery, which has to a large extent been put on care and maintenance by the two owners. This transaction should be supported if followed. A cost-benefit analysis is clear that such a transaction will be beneficial for the wider South African economy. So in essence, the ANC as an organization is now coming out to back the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy, Gwede Mantashe, in the gas and oil exploration projects that were seemingly put on hold, particularly within the Eastern Cape coastline and around the Eastern Cape coastline. Is a company which is involved with Batu Trust, which also donated some funds to the African National Congress. You've got the ANC fully coming out and saying now that government should essentially own its own oil refinery in order to reduce and mitigate the rising cost prices of fuel within the country, which have been further exacerbated by the Ukraine-Russia war. It goes further in this leaked Economic Transformation Subcommittee document of the ANC to speak about land expropriation without compensation, and that some white farmers must now be in a position to offer portions of their land for redistribution in order to mitigate land hunger that is there in the country. Our former finance minister and ANC NEC member Tito Mboweni has previously complained about the ANC's approach to land expropriation without compensation, saying that there's no clear methodology on how it's going to roll out this particular conference resolution of land expropriation without compensation, because they've not characterized the various types of land, whether it's agrarian land, whether people need land for development or people need land for commercial development, for instance, like you are seeing with the Metropolis economic issues that are being raised around the R. Tambo International Airport, which is a project which was pioneered by the former mayor of Ekurhuleni, which is now the minister in the presidency, Mondli Kungubele.
Samkele Maseko, SABC News reporter, joining us there. Thank you so much indeed for your time.